from that point of launching into the market for 12 months, then we hit six figures. But that first month was $60 of revenue. And it was a wake up call of, I can't just put together a website with a good portfolio and wait for people to find me. And I know there are photographers, there are businesses that do that. They kind of build the website and it looks great and they tell all their family and friends, and then they just sit back and wait and hope that somebody calls.
The Business Owner's Journey. I'm Nick Berry, and I've got real business owners telling their real stories, sharing their real lessons and strategies so you don't have to figure it all out on your own. Daniel Wakefield went from a school teacher to a side hustle to owning a business that did six figures in his first 12 months, multiple six figures in year 2. Now in year 3, he's already exceeded this year's revenue goal, doing something that I probably considered to be a commodity, headshot photography. His company is Top Tier Headshots, which does professional headshots. He's very transparent with how he's done it, and now he's teaching others in his workshops and upcoming book. We talked about clients saying that the headshot changed their life. We talked about him being an expression coach, about how he did $60 in revenue in his first month and rebounded to do six figures in the first year. His approach to networking, how he decommoditized headshots, and about how he makes the sale when he's priced 3 to 5 times higher than his competitors. Enjoy this episode with Daniel Wakefield. I would assume that a lot of people are like this, but I thought that headshots were a commodity, because if you got a phone, I can take a selfie, I can do a headshot. And that now I know that that's probably insulting to you. But now that I've seen your work and heard people talk about the effect that it's had on them, I understand why you would look at somebody who said that and kind of like, So I was just uninformed. But in the last couple of weeks, I've learned that what you're doing is anything but a commodity. And I've heard some stories, but I want to hear you talk. First of all, tell me, what is it about your headshots? What is it that you see differently that has totally broken the whole commodity frame?
So, well, first of all, thank you for having me on the podcast. It's a pleasure to be here. So for me, it was about thinking about what kind of value does a headshot have for a professional? And for some people, they themselves may think, well, I need to get it done because I need to have something on my LinkedIn. But for them, it's almost more like a placeholder, right? It's like something to put in there. For some people, it's just, let me find a photo of me at a wedding and crop it down so they got the tux on and something like that. So those people aren't really viewing the value that it can have for their career. And when I started to think about, what kind of value could this have for professionals, I started to realize that people with really good headshots on LinkedIn tend to get more profile views. LinkedIn actually did a study that demonstrated that. Their study was basically comparing profiles with at least a decent headshot versus profiles that I think had like a selfie or nothing, and found that the ones with at least a decent quality headshot get 14 times more profile views than those who don't.
Okay.
So right there, we're immediately starting to see some value in terms of, if I'm in any sense wanting to use my page for business development, marketing, things like that, you're immediately getting a return on that investment just by having that good quality headshot on your profile and really presenting your professionalism up front. So there's that is one thing I would say in terms of value. And then other things, stories that I've had from my clients and just what they're using these images for, things like a book cover or a podcast, cover, magazine features when they're doing something cool and they're getting featured in a magazine because of it. And so just all of these different things that are really, helping to further someone's career and put out this great image of themselves. And, it's people are benefiting from that when it's a great quality image and really helps to show off who they are and their personality and all of these things. And so that, and this goes right into like this story that this client of mine who she got me to do a headshot for her that she put on her book. And she told me sometime afterwards, and not just me, she actually put this on LinkedIn, on Instagram. She said that that photo changed her life. And I think there's, several different factors to that. One of them just being the self-confidence piece and how having this powerful image of yourself actually translates to helping you feel more confident in your career. But then beyond that, she's telling me that now when she does keynote speaking, and she has audience members come up and talk to her after the event, and she's spoken to some very large crowds as well across the US. And she has said these people are coming up to her and saying, as soon as we saw the photo of you on the cover of your book, we felt like we had to come and hear what you had to say. There's something to that goes beyond just like dollar value there. There's something that it's actually helping her in maybe not tangible, maybe intangible ways of like it's actually promoting her while she's sleeping. Somebody sees the cover of her book and they're like, I gotta go hear this woman speak because of the way that we were able to portray her with that image. So not only is it getting her more recognition, but it's getting her more revenue because it's selling more tickets and bringing more people out to these events. So to me, I don't like to view headshots as just it's something we have to get done, something we need for the company website or for a LinkedIn profile. But what could it be? What's the potential there for brand development and recognition, for increased business development and networking opportunities and just connecting with people, and then revenue opportunities. If it's something that's, you've got a great photo of yourself and it opens doors for connection on LinkedIn, there may be revenue opportunities that started with that moment.
The way that I was introduced to you was through some people who I heard they were like sharing how proud they were of their headshots. Right. Well, they weren't even talking about what they were using it for. They were
Right.
proud of a headshot. And I thought, man, that's kind of odd. And then I heard it again. And so then I finally looked into it and I was like, wow, those really are good. But there's more to it than it just being a good photograph. I think it gets into their perception of themselves and then the opportunities that can come from changing your perception of yourself and having that asset on hand to use. It changes the way that you think about yourself and about your brand.
Yeah. And I think that there's a process to it, but there's also something intangible about it. The kind of my mentality when it comes to headshots is that it starts with rapport and connection with someone. And then I have this process that I call expression coaching, which is I always tell people what I do is not school picture day. Stand over here, say cheese, click, and then we're done. Because what does that tend to produce? Fake smiles, forced. We all kind of remember those high school pictures that just were like, those aren't flattering of anybody. And so that's what my clients were telling me their past headshot experience was like. Just school picture day, but for adults. And I was like, there's got to be something better. And I was blessed to have some mentors to kind of start pointing me in the right direction. But essentially, it's, if you get in front of a camera and you're not an actor or a model, so you don't really know what to do in front of a camera. So, and that's my primary clientele are corporate professionals, not actors and models. So They get in front of my camera. They're maybe a bit nervous. They don't know what to do in front of a camera. And they'll tell me. They open up and they say, 90% of my clients tell me some version of I'm not photogenic, or I'm not comfortable in front of a camera, or I hate doing this. All of the bad experiences come crashing in all at once. And I've just learned to say, don't worry about it. I got you. Because you may not be good at this, but I am good at this. It's kind of what I've become good at. And then it kind of goes into this expression coaching where I'm just teaching people these little tips about, how to look confident, even if you don't feel confident, which is huge. And you can take this and use it when you walk into a big meeting at your workplace, and things like that. So it goes beyond just getting a great headshot. But so I'm teaching them these little things that they need to do about, what makes a facial expression look confident or approachable or genuine. But then part of it is literally just me saying random things to get reactions out of people. Because, and this is something very interesting. We as human beings are not able, unless somebody's out there listening and they have this superpower, but the rest of us don't. You can't consciously think of two different things at the same time. Your mind might bounce around a bit from one thing to another, but you can't consciously think about, two different things at the same time. So if somebody is standing in front of a camera and they're thinking about how nervous they are, or like, I'm not sure what to do, and then I tell them to do something that's so like, what? And then they realize it was a joke and they start laughing, what you get is pure authenticity. Because in that moment, they're no longer thinking about how nervous they are. They're just reacting to what I said.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's kind of a, it's madness, but there's a method to the madness with
Mm-hmm.
that. But the whole point of it is, our, I think with the development of AI and everybody doing business online and all of those related topics, people are just craving real human connection.
Mm-hmm.
And the AI may be great for, coming up with new ideas or different things, but people, I think, already are sick of AI produced content, of things that just seem plastic and not real. And so now translate that to the facial expression that you're making
Mm-hmm.
in a headshot, which is going to go on LinkedIn. So that's your, in a sense, your digital handshake. That's your first impression. If that's just a fake, forced smile, you're not doing yourself any favors. You're not connecting with anybody. But here's the thing. If we can produce a headshot that looks like you're not smiling at a camera, but looks like you're smiling at a person, that has just totally elevated your first impression. And it looks like they're smiling at a person because they were smiling
Mm-hmm.
at me, right?
I think that's the difference that I can
it's
see in your
not
images.
it's not just a technical, yes, there's all the technical, the lighting, camera settings, all of those things, composition, all of that is very important. And without it, there would be a lot of the lighting and stuff just would be off, right? But if all of that's there, but then you just have somebody go in and click the button, then there's something terribly missing. And
Mm-hmm.
that's that authenticity that needs to be there, so that when somebody, total stranger, visits your LinkedIn page, they feel like there's a connection between you just by seeing your headshot.
Or if
And
they
that,
see your picture on the cover of a book,
yes,
they know, like, I have to go see this person
yes,
speak.
yes,
Yeah, I can. That's what it is. That's the difference with the headshots that I've seen of yours. That it's like they're with you. They see you there.
yeah,
That's not the only story that you've got. There are a lot. I've heard a lot of comments about the effect that having these headshots done has had on people.
yeah. I got one that's more on the And it's one of my favorite stories. And it's actually, I got permission from her. This story is going to be in my book. I had this client come in just for one of my quick express sessions. So 30 minutes. It's more of a quick in and out thing. And she came in and, just kind of some small talk. I said, "How's your week going?" And she said, "Actually, not very good." So I was like, "Oh man, I'm so sorry to hear that." I know we're going to have a great session today. I know we're going to knock it out of the park. And so she just kept telling me, like, repeatedly, I need to look really confident in these headshots. Like, not just once, but several times she said that. So I'm like, okay, there's something here. But thankfully, that's one of my favorite expressions to capture is this confidence. And so I was like, no problem. Like, I love capturing that. And that helps me. I can then kind of direct you in that direction with the coaching. So got her in front of the camera, did my coaching, started coaching her through the whole process, getting a bunch of different shots. We shot in 2 different outfits. And then at the end of the session, we're reviewing all of them on my laptop. We're narrowing it down, and we narrow it down to 2 images, one in each outfit, both of which she just looks like over the top confident. Like, if you didn't know that she was having a bad week, you would never tell that from the photos, because she just looked like calm and peaceful and, like, kind of that little hint of approachability, but just like confident, like she's going to go take over the world. Just amazing. And we narrowed it down to the 2, and we got down to the 2, and she said, "Those are the 2 that I want." And she immediately burst into tears. And I was like, "Oh no, what happened?" And she said, "I didn't want to tell you this before, but I got fired yesterday from my job." And by the way, she's also a Marine veteran. So, not the kind of person that, is like late and gets fired because they're late or lazy or anything. Like, she was, on the ball and kind of out of the blue, just got let go. And it just was such a huge blow to her self-confidence. And she said, "You got me looking so confident in these images. I feel like I can get back out there and just take on the world no matter what happens." And she took those images, she put them on LinkedIn. She got an amazing new job within a couple weeks of that session. And she's told me a couple of times that she credits those images as playing a role in her getting the job, which just, I'm so, humbled that that was the case. But I think kind of one of the takeaways that I've seen is that if you see yourself, you kind of on the screen looking super confident, it actually helps you feel more confident.
Mm-hmm.
There's something about that psychologically, seeing yourself kind of in that, pun intended, in the best light, and with that really genuine and confident expression, that it actually does something to you and it actually makes you feel more confident. And that was just like, it was almost a revelation for
Mm-hmm.
me of the power of what you can do with these images.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe that. I think it's been enlightening to me having the conversations with you and learning about your work. I mean, I think whether we realize it or not, when you see a picture of yourself, to a degree, it sticks with you. Like, that's who I am, and
Yeah.
so it just stands to reason. Then you probably should try to be intentional about that. And these pictures that we choose to use of ourselves in different places are have more significance than we might have let on. It, like, that part of it is not a commodity for sure.
Yeah. Yeah.
But there's more to what's going on with you than the magic of your headshots, though. Which, I mean, obviously you're very talented, but you haven't been doing this for that long, right? And this isn't your original career path. Well, tell your backstory real quick, and then we'll get into like the milestone that you just hit, the book you just mentioned,
Yeah.
like this trajectory that you're on.
Yeah. So, backstory, I used to be a high school science teacher. So, a little bit of a different career path there. Went to college from Canada originally, so went to college up there, got a degree in biology, a degree in education, and started teaching high school up there. And wasn't planning on doing anything else for the rest of my life. I mean, there's definitely something fulfilling about teaching the next generation. The unfortunate thing is that it's very hard to make a good living doing that. And my wife wanted to, at least while we have small children, she wanted to be a stay at home mom. And so that was, it was kind of multifaceted, but there was part of the impetus for like, how can I use this hobby that I had been developing of photography and start to, just really, could I make a living out of this? Is that a, viable career path? And I knew that I didn't want to be a wedding photographer. But I wasn't really sure how else to kind of break into the industry. As a hobby, I was just doing it wildlife and nature photography. I've always, again, kind of, that was the tie into biology, and how I got into photography in the first place was I love wildlife. But that doesn't, unless you become super famous and people are willing to pay, a ton of money for one of your prints, that's kind of hard to make a living just shooting wildlife. So it really kind of forced me to think about, well, are there other areas? And I was doing like people portraits on the side a bit, just for, side hustle, little cash on the side, and really started to become fascinated by this topic of genuine human expression. And the thing that really got me started thinking about that was my mom, and taking pictures of my parents, you know, um, would go home for the holidays. Oh, Dan, can you bring your camera and, take some photos for us while you come? Sure, no problem. Well, my mom has a beautiful smile, but when you tell her to smile, it's the most fake smile in the world. And it's like, Mom, that's not what you look like. So trying to photograph her and trying to figure out ways to get great smiles out of her, and also really realizing, in that case, it wasn't for a business purpose. It was just for the purpose of memories. You look back on these photos, you want to, you know, remember somebody as they were, which is them looking genuine, them looking
Mm-hmm.
authentic, not them trying to force something. And so that got me started thinking about the importance of genuine expression, and then also how do we elicit that? How do we capture that? Things like that. And yeah, so then I kind of met somebody that I had a mutual friend with, who was doing headshots full time in Washington D.C., and got connected with that guy. And he became a bit of a business mentor for me at the beginning of my business, and I jumped in with both feet, and that was in January of 2021. So getting close to 4 years ago.
You just hit your annual revenue goal for this year, and it is the 11th of October. Still 2 months left in the year. So the growth trajectory of the business as a whole has been steady and upward, right?
It's
And I mean, you went
Yeah,
to six figures in your second year, right?
yes, from that point of launching into the market for 12 months, then we hit six figures. But that first month was $60 of revenue. And it was a wake up call of, I can't just put together a website with a good portfolio and wait for people to find me. And I know there are photographers, there are businesses that do that. They kind of build the website and it looks great, and they tell all their family and friends, and then they just sit back and wait and hope that somebody calls. And I know I'm not the only one that did that. And yeah, it was that $60 month. That was a wake up call.
Yeah.
Thankfully we had some savings and some things, so we were fine. But I was
Thankfully, you
like,
woke up.
yeah, thankfully I woke up quickly and started to think, I've got to go find people, but I didn't know how to do that. And I think it was maybe part way or three quarters of the way through that month. One of my friends that's in commercial real estate said something about, have you ever been to like a business luncheon or something like that, like a networking thing? And I was like, I have kind of heard of networking. I've never done it, didn't really, wasn't really doing anything like that in my previous career, at least not in that way. And so I just said, I got to do whatever it takes. And that was kind of what led into the networking thing.
Yeah. And so to kind of bring that full circle. So in first month, $60. Then at the end of 12 months, you'd hit six figures. Second year, multiple six figures. Third year, upwards another 20%. And then this year, you've already exceeded your annual goal by the 11th of October. And that's not just because of the wonderful talent that you have taking headshots. We've talked about your philosophy behind headshots. So talk about some of your business philosophy behind the trajectory of the business.
So I think it was, one of the things that I really started learning early on, especially once I got into networking. So going to that first networking meeting, never done it before in my life, no idea what I was doing, just trying to be friendly and pass out business cards and everything. And, this well meaning friend of mine had said, it's not rocket science, it's just a photo shoot. So you should be going and like actually selling people, at these meetings. And I just felt really like that's just not me. Like I didn't feel, to meet somebody and try to book them on the spot for my services just felt like really forced. And I appreciate that friend and he has given me some great advice, but that just didn't really feel like me. And so, but I kept going to these networking things because I thought, well, I need to meet people, need to connect with people, and really get to know people so that I become a known entity. Because how do you try to start a business, how do you get clients when nobody knows you exist in your area? And I think a lot of businesses serve local areas. So, if nobody in the business community knows that I exist, and that's my target market, like I said, I just can't wait around for them to, Google because they had a need.
And they
So it was
probably don't appreciate the benefit of having great headshots.
right. Yeah. A lot of people don't. They haven't experienced it, or they haven't learned about the benefits that other people have found. So that was part of it, was like, how do I educate people on this? And so, I think that in terms of a principle, and again, this is not something that is new to business, but it was new to me, at least as I was growing, was really the importance of building strong and personal relationships in business with other business owners, and the value that that has for growing a business. And even if somebody, doesn't use your services for whatever reason, it doesn't mean that you shouldn't, pursue a relationship with them. And so that kind of became a core value of top tier headshots, was that it's all about genuine connection with people, and then the different, facets of that as it relates to different areas of marketing and sales and client experience and all of those things. So, if you are trying to grow a business but you've not really put in the work to genuinely connect with people, then you're missing out. At the very least, you're missing out on opportunity, and at the worst, you might be like floundering, or your business might be dying because you don't have those
Yeah.
connections. I know Adam Grant talks about the difference between um, transactional relationships and meaningful relationships. And essentially, with a transactional relationship, somebody needs your service. They pay you for it. They come get the service done. You deliver the product, and then you're done, and that's it. And then you have no interest in any sort of relationship. So really, you're just in it for the money. That's all. With a meaningful relationship, there may or may not be transactions present with that relationship, but guaranteed there's going to be ongoing value. And so for me, part of it wasn't just I need more clients. Part of it was I need to learn. Like I'm getting into this photography business, and while the photography aspect, there were aspects of that I had already, learned and was doing very well with. The business and the networking and the marketing and the sales and all of those different things, I barely knew what I was doing. And so part of the benefit of networking was I get to surround myself with and learn from people who are crushing it, and, you know, hopefully have some of that rub off on me, or some of them were so gracious to pour into me and take me out for lunch and, just allow me to pick their brain about different topics related to business. And it made a huge impact on me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that, the people who are like, I got to go network because I need more clients, are missing out on a bigger picture that we need to have of the more of the overall kind of mindset as it, relates to networking, and just the importance of building those genuine connections with people. And I've had people that have still never, people in my network that I've built relationships with, they've still never used my services for whatever reason. And that's fine, but they've also sent me clients, and I've also learned from them.
Mm-hmm.
And I've benefited from following them on LinkedIn and learning from the things that they're posting
Mm-hmm.
about. So it's not just about like, if you don't come and use my services, you're dead to me type of thing, which, for all intents and purposes, some business owners are they have that mindset. Like,
Mm-hmm.
if you're
Networking is
not,
purely a business development activity, nothing
yeah,
else.
that's it. If I don't get the sale, if you don't go to me, if you go to my competitor, then I want nothing to do with you, and that's a mistake,
Mm-hmm.
I believe. And so networking and kind of this mindset of relationship building and building meaningful relationships, not transactional relationships, was a huge paradigm shift for me.
It seems like you look at networking. It's not as uh, purely a business development activity. It's just a part of your development in all facets. It's a
Yeah,
thing that like nurtures you.
yeah,
Yep, and that's part of like you've kind of curated your support system to include a lot of connections that are like the people you surround yourself with, you're going to kind of ascend or descend to their level. And a lot of the people that you're connected to have helped you expedite your learning process, get you up to speed in a few different areas. And I think that's awesome. I think it's a great way to look at it. It just feels better too, right?
yeah.
Feels a lot better than the transactional.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Especially if that's kind of, how you operate, which I think is a good way to operate in the rest of your life, that, relationships are a good thing, and that they shouldn't just be transactional, but, we should cultivate, deeper, meaningful relationships. Just take that and apply it to business. And I think that one of the things as well that business owners are missing out on is the opportunity for strategic partnerships and collaborations with other businesses. When you take two different business owners that may have two, maybe they overlap somewhat, but maybe they have two different audiences, and then you do a collaboration between those two brands, it opens the door for both audiences to see what's happening, and to potentially drive a lot of hype, a lot of excitement around what's going on there. But even just from the perspective of, maybe a lower level perspective of just getting referrals between businesses. I think there's a lot of opportunities. So when I go networking, I'm not just looking for new clients. Um, I'm looking for potential new collaborators,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that is something that can, you know, in a good way, open a can of worms to so many, new and potential opportunities.
Has you had many of those projects? Like, has that been behind some of your growth?
Yes, I would say so, and I think that I don't mind saying this publicly. I think that my partnership with the Daily Drip. If there's anybody listening here in South Florida, it's a South Florida business women's professional community. It's not a networking group. It's like a business growth development community. There's several different aspects to it, but just partnering with them has been very helpful in a multitude of ways. It has gotten me more clients, yes. So that's obviously a, immediate benefit, but the just I think awareness of my business because of that, and then also the learning that happens whenever I have a conversation with the co-founders, Nicole and Romy, is always just like this nuclear bomb of ideas and strategies and just all of these things that really have helped my business thinking and my marketing thinking to grow and develop. And then we've seen the results of that in just the growth of my business, and then hopefully the growth of theirs as well. So that, I mean, if you're out networking and you're just like, I got to get a new client, I got to get that number, but then you're missing those opportunities or those possibilities for those potential opportunities, you're missing out on a lot.
You're leaving a lot out there. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's right. I agree. One of the things that I think that I've seen that I think you do really well is how you positioned yourself with the white glove service. And I mean, just kind of going back to breaking the whole commoditization frame around headshots. I think you attribute it to a mindset shift around don't discount, right? We talk about the mindset and don't discount and how that your positioning and how all that relates.
So part of that initial thinking about that was definitely influenced by my first business mentor, the headshot photographer in DC, and kind of his thought process around it was, if you price yourself at a lower price point and then you discount that, that's what the majority of photographers are doing. Their pricing is pretty low to begin with, and then it's a weekend special, it's a Christmas special, it's a Thanksgiving, whatever it may be, it's some discount. And essentially what you're training your audience to do is to wait until there's a discount. So there's no reason to go and pay the full price for their service. If they do these discounts frequently enough, then we'll just wait until he runs another discount, and then we'll do that. But essentially, you're kind of tapping into a market in your business where people are generally looking for the best deal. And so it essentially becomes a race to the bottom in terms of pricing. And it's basically whoever has the cheapest price and the best portfolio wins. And it's like how low do you go before you're essentially working for free and just giving away your service? And when I was doing photography as a side hustle, that's essentially where I was at, and I didn't really know any better. Then transitioning into this business where my mentor was really trying to encourage me, like, there's another market up here where people aren't price shopping. What they're looking for is quality, and, quality and experience, and all of the things that go along with that. And there was there was a mindset shift that had to happen where, I was thinking, who in the world is going to pay this much for a headshot? And that real fear of, what if I start this business and I do this and nobody books with me? What's going to happen? And was kind of at a point where I needed to make this work. But I think one of the things that encouraged me was my mentor was actually doing it. So he wasn't just talking about it, but he was actually doing it. And he was being transparent with me about the kind of revenue that he was seeing in his business, and even right down to how he broke down the pricing for that for a session. And I was like, well, if he can do it there, why can't I do it here? It's there. We've got a proof of concept, so why can't I, just apply that down here? And so that's what I started to do. And I did start off lower than I'm at today, but it was still on the higher end of what someone might expect to pay for a headshot. And man, I tell you, the fear associated with getting on a phone call with somebody and like, okay, now what's your price? Big swallow, here it is.
Are you
And
sure you want to
yeah.
know?
And again, something I write about in my book, the very first time, I think it was in that first month of the business, website was live. We had made a Google business page. Somebody got my number from somewhere, called me up and wanted to know how much it would be to get headshots done. And that was the worst sales conversation in the history of sales, because it was so terrible and I was defensive about my price and I didn't know what to say. And I think in the book I actually apologized to the guy because it was so bad. And I was like, call me again, I can do better this time. But it was, again, that learning to recognize, okay, if I can not only create the quality that I can create, but then add on top of that the experience, and then what that's going to do for your personal brand, for your business, and all of these things, that's valuable to people. And when I started really in my own brain connecting what I do with the potential revenue that somebody could earn because of my work, then I was like, well, then it makes sense.
Is that what it took for you
I
to?
mean, it was a little bit of that. I mean, I was still like, there wasn't like an aha moment. It was kind of a bit more gradual than that, and part of it was just getting the reps in and having more
Mhm.
sales calls and learning, and then taking one of my sales buddies out for lunch and just being like, how do I talk to a human being on the phone?
Mhm.
What am I doing here? And then just kind of the learning and the practicing, but then also the growing realization of the value that this brings to the table. And so there was that mindset shift,
Mhm.
where now I can get on the phone with somebody and I can talk through their needs, how I can be a solution, what the pricing is going to be for a session like this, and I'm excited about it. I'm excited to tell somebody because I know the value is there to back
Mhm.
it up. It's not a, here's two guys and here's one guy charging X and here's another guy charging 10X, but their product and services are exactly the same. It's, I'm doing all of this on top of what the typical photographer is doing when it comes to headshots. And but then also just at the same time recognizing the value that it has. Like if you come into headshots, and even if you can take the best headshot in the world, but if you don't understand business and you don't understand the value that it has, you yourself are going to be afraid to charge for that because you don't understand that value and you think it's a commodity, and you just think like, well, in my past side hustle, people paid me, $150 for 30 images or whatever, like something like that. Then, you're going to be like limiting yourself in terms of, understanding the value that these have for business professionals.
The feeling of being able to state your prices without the anxiety with the conviction and with the confidence and the belief, like it's every bit as big of a shift and a powerful of a shift as the one that we talked about, like for your clients and for me, realizing like, oh shit, like this, I mean, this image of my head changes the way that I'm looking at myself, and I didn't even realize I was looking at myself in any kind of way before.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a story that you told me about. Um, Someone was came to you comparing price your pricing to some quotes that they'd gotten, and
Yeah.
they bought from you, and your price is like, if I remember, it was like 5 or 6 times what the competitors were.
Yeah.
But
It was
but it
maybe the next highest quote I was probably, when all was said and done, probably 4x what they were.
Yeah, getting to a place where you can go into that conversation and your confidence is not shaken before, during, or after by any of what happens there. And then to be able to close those deals successfully, that's not an accident. I'm
Yeah.
sure it was that mindset.
Yeah, I mean, I tell you, man, it's been a journey for sure because I did not have any sales training or anything before this. But to me, it's just kind of come down to, you know, how how am I going to help somebody? And, what problems are they facing? And am I the best solution for their problem? And so, when I got on this call with this specific company, and they told me the price of the other, well, let me back up a second, because I was doing some discovery and just finding out, what are your goals for these images. That's, if there's photographers listening to this, do you ask your potential clients what are their goals for this photo shoot? Or are you just treating the headshots like a commodity, like, yep, you need this, I can give this, it's this price, done, that's it. May or may not get the job. But I was asking this potential client at the time, what are your goals for this image? Who are your potential clients? What kind of an impression are you trying to make with these images, on your website or your social media, things like that? And they told me their ideal clients are high net worth individuals. And they really liked the fact that one of the things that I want to help my clients with is to help them be ready for any opportunity that comes their way. If you need to look like the cover of Forbes magazine, I'm going to help you do that. And they liked that. They liked that presentation of themselves to their potential clients as themselves a high-end service provider. So when they told me the quotes that they had gotten from the other photographers, I was maybe a little bit nervous, like, wow, my price is going to be way above this. I don't know if I'll ever get this job. But at the same time, I also felt kind of worried that they would go and spend money that would end up being a waste, because from my experience and from what my clients have told me, the level of service and quality that you get at the price points they told me from the other quotes tends to look more like school picture day and not like this kind of high end Forbes magazine kind of a feel to it. And so I told them that. And I said, listen, if you just need this kind of simple, basic headshot for your website, then I may not be your guy, but what you just told me before was you've got high end clientele. You want to look high end. You want to appeal to that crowd. I know that I can help you look like that. And I said, you don't have to go with me, but if you go with something that's quoted that low, I'm worried that you're not going to be able to achieve your goals with this. And there ended up being a couple of conversations back and forth, but I ended up closing them at probably about 3x what the next highest quote was. And by the end, they ended up adding on more images, more stuff that I did for them. And actually, they're continuing to work with me in an ongoing way with all of their new hires. So there's ongoing revenue from that. But uh, on that first day of working together, because of the additional things, they probably ended up paying 4 to 5x what the next highest quote was. But they saw the value in what I was
Mm-hmm.
bringing to the table.
And that just
So
could not have unfolded like that if you would have gone into that conversation with them about the quotes. And instead of being anchored on your price, you were more anchored on theirs
yeah,
and the competitions, right?
yeah, yeah. And there's definitely some people, some potential clients that I lose out on because my pricing is up there, but those are usually people that their goals are just, we just need a simple headshot. We just need, and really any photographer can do that, but that's not what I'm offering to people. So if somebody like connects with my offer, and like usually if somebody connects with my offer, they're not going anywhere else. Like this is the
Mm-hmm.
guy. And that's what I want. I want, when I have somebody that I connect with that's an ideal client, that my portfolio is at such a level, and the connection that I make with them and the problem solving that I do for them, that it just becomes a no-brainer despite
Mm-hmm.
the price point.
That's what gets people to fly across the country for a half a day to spend a few $1,000s to get a handful of headshots and leave so happy that they're going to fly back soon with their spouse to put them through the same session.
Yep. Yep. And that's like people flying in or people flying me to other parts of the country to work with their executive teams. Like that's not something I was expecting when I started my business. I had heard about other photographers being like that, and I was like, well, you probably just have to be famous or something for that to happen to you. And that's kind of like the bleed over into the power of LinkedIn as a business development tool, to have somebody see my work on LinkedIn and immediately think that's what I want. And then, when I've had clients fly over from California to work with me, there's headshot photographers in California. Like you could just Google it, but they saw a headshot of somebody they were connected to and they loved it and they were immediately sold. And when I picked up the phone to talk with them, and I told them the price, it was like, yeah, that's great. Well, how soon can I get on your calendar? And that's just like the greatest sales feeling in the world, because you're not pushing anything. You're just like, this is what it's going to cost. And they're like, great. Yeah. When can this happen?
Let's talk about business coaching. You've gotten a lot of attention. Business is growing. You're not just a skilled photographer. Your business acumen is getting some notoriety, and similar to the path that I went on a while back. Then people are like, tell me how to do it and I'll pay you. And then you find yourself in another line of business.
Yeah.
But you've written a book. You're sharing, this is what I've done. This is what other people can do too. So tell me, what's the direction with the business coaching?
So I guess the genesis of that was, when I when I started my business, I had no aspirations. I literally just wanted to put food on the table for my family. Like, so if I can make a good income doing this, then that's great. And I'm so thankful that that's happening. Obviously, so maybe I would think it was about 2 years into the business, and was having some great success. And I started to have other photographers reach out, and just like you said, they were reaching out and saying, hey, can I pay you to hop on a call and pick your brain about business stuff? And my first response was like, sure. Like,
Why?
I still felt like I was figuring it out, but these people, they were, 5-10 steps behind me, but saw the success that I was having, and they wanted to do that. So but then it just kept happening again and again and again. And then some of those first kind of students, they maybe a month or so after our first call would call back, or just like say, can I pay you for another call? Like, what you told me is working and we're making more money, we're getting more clients. Can we hop on another call and talk about other stuff, other business stuff? So that's kind of where it started. And then maybe about little over a year ago, I started talking with my wife, Bethany, and just saying, should we be doing something more strategic? I used to be a high school teacher, so I do enjoy the teaching element of things. And the quote unquote unofficial students that I started to have, they were actually, taking what I told them and going out and using it and it was working and, making them more money, which was awesome. And I had always loved writing. High school, college, any opportunity that I had to write, typically loved it. And so I thought, should I write a book about this and just kind of tell the story of how my business got started, and then bring out all of these practical, strategies that I was using and continue to use in the growth of my business. And then, we've got that book as an asset, and maybe that will lead to more coaching opportunities, more speaking opportunities, things like that. So that's what we decided to do. So I started writing the book actually about a year ago and finished the first draft back in March of this year, and then started working with a publisher in July. And we're still in the midst of the editing process, but the book is scheduled to go to print early in 2025.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
And you've done a workshop. You've got several more workshops scheduled.
Yep.
And you're doing workshops with a pretty prominent figure in the photography business, right?
Yeah. So one of kind of the part of the story of the business is that mentor in DC said, hey, if you want to do headshots, you need to go join this group called Headshot Crew, where this run by and started by this guy named Peter Hurley, who's widely considered to be the best in the world when it comes to headshots. And he pioneered this style of lighting, and really puts a lot of emphasis on getting great expression out of people. So that was kind of my interest in like getting a good expression out of my mom and other people. Kind of when I went to start working with Peter, it was like, oh, he's actually teaching about this. So it kind of just fit really nicely. So I got into his crew, started learning the headshots. In less than a year, he made me one of his associates, which was a huge honor and accomplishment. And then just this year actually elevated me to the status of mentor in his headshot crew as well. And so we were talking and just having some conversations about different stuff. And I pitched him on the idea of when he does his headshot workshop, which he teaches around the country. I said, what if some of the times where you do those, we add on another day and I teach business, like the photography business side of things? And he loved the idea. And so we did the first one back in June in my workshop, and it sold out. We had people fly in from 4 different states, including, local photographers here. And he loved it so much. He was like, let's figure out how to keep doing this. So the next one is actually this month. In just a couple of weeks, I'm flying up to New York City to teach the workshop in his studio in NYC. So definitely excited about that.
Is there availability still for that?
There's some, yeah. We're got a couple weeks left, and I think we're just a little bit over halfway sold out. So there's a little room. And just kind of to clarify as well, this workshop is not limited to photographers. I think could be beneficial to any creative entrepreneur.
Okay, Daniel, this is fantastic, man. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening. If you found the show valuable, you can say thanks and show your support simply by taking a quick second to like, share, and comment on the show. You can also find more information about each of my guests, all of the resources from the show, and myself at nickberry.info/TBOJ.